basically what I derived from that was that there weren't very many solutions to our energy problems. We had solar, wind, geothermal, and others, but all of those depended on finite resources. So, and we can make those statements now with confidence because we have working solutions that are showing energy increases and efficiency gains. We took from that the only working solutions were energy devices that people have made for themselves. So we began studying a practical guide to free energy, and through those 15 chapters, the one thing that resonated most with us was the rodent coil. Basically what that means is that in that bundle of 12, 6 wires are going in this direction and 6 wires are going in that direction. Basically what that does is it creates a standing wave or an energy collision that then turns into high voltage resonance, which isn't supposed to happen with a one-to-one coil. Another thing that we found is that these coils are able to create low voltage ozone. That's something that doesn't happen. The only time you get ozone production is corona discharge of high voltage.
Exactly.
High voltage power lines and things like that. Finally we have been able to replicate the magnetic monopole that many people have been talking about previously online.
In the shadows of capitalism's dark secrets, join us on a thrilling new show. Get ready to be inspired, enraged, and empowered as we delve into the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices.
Only on Beneficence TV.
Alright, welcome back to another special episode of the pregame show for our League of Extraordinary Inventors Friday podcast. I'm your host, the Benefactor. I'm an independent researcher looking into all forms of forbidden knowledge. We're going to start today with a lecture on the Aether. So let me give you the guide. It's in the description, but I like to post it in the chat as well, so you guys have it. And I'll also put it up on the screen for those who can't actually follow along in an extra tab, like if you're on your phone or something. Elijah says the music makes him feel like he's in an anime. Yes, that's the idea. It's epic, and it's made to be epic. Alright, give me 1 second. I'm going to load it up in another tab so I can post it in the chat for you guys. There it is. And as you can see, in an attempt to not only try to get more subscribers, but to eliminate some trolls, I enabled the subscriber-only chat. Now, you don't have to wait in order to subscribe and chat in, but I did do that for a reason, just to weed out some of the people who aren't serious about this stuff and just want to tease us. Alright, so I put the pregame show guide in the chat for you guys. I'm going to load it up here on the screen as well. Alright, so, as I've said before, this is our pre-game show for the League of Extraordinary Inventors. That will be hitting off at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as per usual. I like to take this opportunity before the show to delve into some of my research and get to some of the details that we might not be able to get to in the main show because we have so many people on now that sometimes we don't get to go into too much detail with my research specifically. So I like to give you guys the opportunity to catch up for the week. In part 1, we're going to be having a lecture on the Aether. Part 2 will be a special message from Daniel Nunez himself, a video that I've been looking for a long time, and it includes some fascinating details. In part 3, we'll be jumping back into the mini lab, putting back on our lab coat, and I have a host of tests that I need to get done, and I'm hoping that you guys will help me go through those, and I'll ask you, which ones look interesting to start off with, and you will be able to input your opinion on that when we get to it. So, yesterday, a video from a YouTuber featuring a billion frames per second camera offered a mesmerizing glimpse into how light behaves in motion. And I hadn't seen this before. I'm sure some people have, but this was new to me, and it sparked some fascinating connections. Okay? Yep, the quality. Let me adjust the quality. Every time I go into tab out to chat with you guys on an alternate tab, I lower the quality, and then I go into the shorts, and there's no actual setting for short quality. So give me 1 second. I have to go back. There we go.
$1,000 that shoots at 1 billion frames per second. Today I want to take a video of the light leaving this laser, traveling across this room and hitting the garage door 18 feet away. Here's a picture of the laser illuminating the wall captured on my phone, and here is a video of the same scene captured by my custom Lightspeed camera. It starts totally dark because there's no light in the room.
Watch
then the
when it
laser
diminishes.
turns on and you can see light rush towards the garage door. Eventually, reflected light has enough time to bounce around and the whole scene fills up with light.
Did you see it? Okay, I'll show it to you again. Watch when it diminishes. It doesn't go back towards the source. It goes forward.
Then the laser turns on and you can see light rush towards the garage door. Eventually, reflected light has enough time to bounce around and the whole scene fills up with
Right. This is going the same as the distance.
So, forward diminishing behavior. Light seems to diminish forward rather than retreat towards its source. This perspective challenges traditional ways of visualizing light propagation, and I'll tell you why. Okay, this echoes Tesla's vision, and Nikola Tesla once described light as sound waves in the aether, a vibrational phenomenon rather than simple particles or waves. Right? The forward diminishing motion aligns with his concept of light as a vibration in an unseen medium, the aether. While this observation may not be entirely new, it's a striking reminder of how far our tools have come in helping us visualize and question the nature of energy. Could this pave the way for renewed interest in Tesla's Aether theories and inspire future breakthroughs? I'm hoping this lecture will. Okay, so let's look at the traditional model, light as a wave and particle. So how does this work? In traditional science, light is described as both a wave and a particle, or a photon. It travels through empty space at the speed of light. No medium, like air or water, is required. Once light is emitted from a source, it moves independently, unaffected by the movement of its source. So some challenges with this traditional way of describing light is, while this model works well for most things, it leaves some puzzling questions, like photons' behavior. A photon, or light particle, acts like it's traveling everywhere as a wave until it is seen or detected. But how does it actually choose where to land? It's almost like the photon knows where it's needed. Okay, so and light also has a constant speed. Light travels at the same speed no matter how fast you're moving. Even if you're racing towards a light source, the light doesn't hit you faster. Why is that? Okay, let's think about this more. Photon behavior. Why does a photon know where to land? In Tesla's view, the aether is a medium through which all energy flows, including light. Think of it like an invisible ocean that surrounds everything. When a photon or light moves through the aether, it's like a drop of water moving through this ocean. The photon doesn't just travel randomly. It's interacting with the aether and flowing its natural flow. So when we see a photon, we're essentially catching it in a specific moment of its journey, where the aether is interacting with the system like us. It doesn't choose where to land, it's just following the aether's flow, and when we detect it, we sync up with its wave. All right, so the constant speed of light. This is, okay. Why doesn't light speed up when you move towards it? Now, this is a big question that I had for a while. According to Tesla's Aether model, light moves through the aether at a fixed speed because the aether itself is stable. It's a stable underlying medium that doesn't change based on your motion. It's like trying to swim through a current in a river. Okay? If you swim towards the current, you might be moving faster relative to the bank of the river, but the flow of the river stays at the same speed, right? Similarly, no matter how fast you're moving towards a light source, the aether or river is still carrying that light at a constant speed because it has a medium in which it's flowing through. All right, a simple analogy, okay? Imagine the aether is like the air in a room and light is like a balloon floating through it. No matter how fast you walk towards the balloon still moves at the same speed relative to the air. You can't change the air's flow just by walking. I mean, you probably could if you were big enough and you're fast enough, but you get the simple analogy is just walking towards the balloon isn't going to change the speed at which the balloon's floating around, okay? The medium is the variable which to consider here. In Tesla's model, the aether is the air, and the photon is the balloon. The light will always move at the same speed no matter your motion. This simple framework helps explain why the speed of light stays constant even when you're moving towards the light source. The aether is a fixed medium that governs this, and it doesn't change based on your speed. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome to everybody who's just joining us. We're having our lecture on the aether. So, okay, let's take a look at the flashlight dilemma. How does light know where to go? Imagine holding a flashlight in a dark room. When you move the flashlight, the beam of light moves instantly with it, illuminating a new spot on the wall. Simple, right? But let's think about that for a minute, because if photons are tiny particles, this creates a big head scratcher. If photons are flying out like little bullets, how do they instantly know where to land in this new spot? Right? It's like a row of archers firing arrows and instantly curving them to hit a moving target. It doesn't really make sense. Wouldn't some light linger? If light were just particles, shouldn't some photons miss the new target and keep traveling toward the old spot? But this never happens. The beam moves perfectly. All right? So let's break it down even further, because this is a concept that we need to wrap our heads around, and it's often overlooked. An observer traveling towards the light. Okay, let's look at an observer traveling towards a light source. In Tesla's Aether model, if you're moving toward the light source, you won't see the light moving faster, even though it might feel like it should, and here's why. To you, the observer, as you move toward the light source, you're getting closer to the photons, so you might expect the light to hit you sooner. But because the light is always traveling at the same speed in the aether, a fixed medium, the photons are still traveling at the same speed. It's like you're walking toward a moving train, but the train's speed remains constant, no matter how fast you're walking towards it. And that's not a perfect analogy, I granted that. But let's take a look at the bullet analogy again, because this one's more important. In conventional explanation, based on the idea of light as a particle, right, you might think of a bullet fired from a gun. If you're moving towards the bullet, it would seem to you that the bullet is coming at you faster. However, light doesn't behave like a bullet. It's not just a particle moving through space, it's a wave in the aether. In Tesla's model, the speed of light is a constant because it's the result of the aether's properties, not something dependent on your motion. A simple breakdown of this is, in Tesla's aether model, the speed of light is fixed in the aether, so even if you're moving towards it, the light doesn't appear faster. Okay? But the bullet analogy, in traditional physics, if you're moving towards a bullet, it seems to hit you faster because you're shortening the distance. But the light isn't a bullet, okay? So even though it might feel like light should be moving faster towards you, it's actually not. The aether maintains a constant flow, and light moves through it at a fixed speed, which behaves more like a wave, okay? So the idea of sound waves in the aether. Nikola Tesla believed the universe was filled with an invisible medium called the aether. Light, in this view, wasn't a particle flying through empty space, but a ripple moving through this aether, just like sound waves travel through air. All right, to strengthen this analogy, imagine throwing a stone into a pond. The ripples spread out, but the water itself doesn't move much. Similarly, Tesla thought light could be like a ripple in the aether, not tiny particles zooming across space. This idea feels more natural because we already see it with sound and water waves in our everyday lives. Okay? We're trying to simplify these concepts and eliminate as many of the unnecessary variables that some of the higher forms of physics like to throw in, like made-up dimensions and made-up variables, just to get the math to work out right. All right? Now imagine the same flashlight in Tesla's aether model. Instead of shooting particles, the flashlight sends out ripples in the aether, like waves in a pond. When you move the flashlight, you're creating a new ripple in the aether, and the old ones naturally fade, just like sound waves do when you stop speaking. This explains why the light beam always moves perfectly with the source, and why there's no leftover light. The ripple simply follows the movement of the source in real time, with no need for photons to decide where to land when you visually see them. This model doesn't need any made-up dimensions or theories that don't fit with observable nature, right? It's simply a fractal of what we already see in water waves and sound. Remember, as above, so below. The universe behaves in patterns we already understand. So keep it simple, stupid. All right, to make this argument even stronger, everyone understands sound waves. They need air to travel, and their behavior makes sense to us. Tesla's idea of light waves needing the aether works the same way, and it's easier to imagine than abstract ideas like space-time. New discoveries that fit better. So Tesla's aether could explain things traditional models struggle with, like zero-point energy. The aether might store energy everywhere, explaining how we get energy from empty space. Instant connections. If light is an aether wave, it could explain how distant points in space seem instantly connected like ripples in a shared pool. Now, photons' behavior, we're going to take a look at Tesla's model versus the traditional model. What's the problem with photons? Well, in the traditional model, a photon acts like it's everywhere as a wave until it's detected and collapses into one spot. But how does that photon decide where to land? It's a contradiction because something physical shouldn't behave this way. We don't see this anywhere in nature. Tesla's solution. In Tesla's model, light isn't a particle, it's a wave traveling through the aether. The detection happens because the wave interacts with something at a specific point, like a sound wave hitting your ear, or water ripples meeting the shore. There's no need for a photon to decide anything. It's just a ripple in the aether reaching the detector naturally, removing the contradiction entirely. And why does this matter? Well, Tesla's idea replaces the confusing wave-particle duality. It replaces it with a simpler explanation. Light's just a wave. This makes the universe feel more connected and less mysterious, while still allowing for all the amazing behaviors of light that we observe. All right, so a couple of things to consider. Why it's compelling. All right, well, it's simple. Tesla's model makes light easier to understand by connecting it to familiar things like sound and water that we can relate to. Unifying. It links light, sound, and electricity as waves in the same medium, giving us one big picture of how the universe works. And this is exciting because if it's true, this idea could open doors to free energy or faster than light communication. And it's my personal belief that that is true. So some more things to consider. Magnets and the Aether interaction. Okay, so the use of magnets in free energy devices is often linked to the concept of influencing or twisting the Aether. Magnets produce a field that could, in some speculative models, twist or manipulate the Aether's structure. All right, and we have a video clip from one of my videos that gives you, when you look at how nature gives you some details on magnets real quick. We're going to take a look at this chapter.
Utilizes energy. It does not waste energy. Magnets are nature's over-unity systems. If you calculate the amount of energy it takes to pulse a magnet compared to the number of years it can sustain itself against its own weight in gravity, you clearly get more energy out than put in. I think a lot of this has to do with the diminishing study of the ether. The dismissal of such a critical component, such as the ether, leads us astray. When thinking about magnets, north and south poles, it's best to think about them as inflow and outflow. When you think about it this way, it makes more sense. Why do opposite poles attract? To understand this, we must first look at this analogy.
So we hypothesized that there was some sort of current circulating in and around the magnet, analogous to the current circulating in a coil of wire, and that this was the cause of attraction and repulsion in the magnet. But currents of what? We hypothesized that the vacuum of space was filled with a fluid of some kind, what you humans used to refer to as the ether. We speculated that these special objects were able to spin up the fluid ether in and around the magnet, generating currents that would then result in attraction and repulsion, analogous to what we saw in the coils. To test this hypothesis, we spun a couple of cylinders in a pool of water and watched their behaviors. Here is a video of one of these experiments. In this video, the cylinders are spinning in opposite directions. The spinning cylinders generate currents in the water surrounding the cylinders. When these cylinders are spinning in opposite directions, the currents generated between the two cylinders will be moving in the same direction. Therefore, according to our rule, same attracts, the cylinders should attract, and they do. In this experiment, the cylinders are spinning in the same direction. Again, this is going to generate currents in the water surrounding the cylinders. When the cylinders are spinning in the same direction, the currents generated between the two cylinders will be moving in opposite directions. Therefore, according to our rule, opposites repel, these cylinders should repel, and they do. So, it seems plausible that the function of the magnet could in fact be described by and explained by fluid dynamics.
I believe this inflow and outflow could be the ether, nature's natural zero-point energy, only flowing from one pressure differential in the ether to the other. Constricting the inflow, or North Pole, essentially produces this radiant energy, as it is not able to return and convert back into the ether.
All right, so and that really explains it in a very easy way to wrap your head around why opposites attract, whereas conventional science really can't give you that explanation. They can describe what's going on, they can give you theories on like how it's happening, but they can't really tell you why opposites attract. And this is something that I think is telling, and more evidence that the Aether does exist, along with the Michelson-Morel experiment that was replicated on APEC. And once I find that video, I'll actually do another lecture on the Aether, including that. And as you all know, or some of you might know, the Michelson-Morel experiment was the experiment that was done wrong, apparently. And it was to prove or disprove the existence of the Aether. You know, they were picking up a drift pattern, and if they picked up the drift pattern, it would prove the existence of the Aether. But it turned out they had the axis of the machine wrong. So they were using the wrong axis. And basically, what these group of scientists did was flip the axis of the machine, ran the same exact experiment, and they picked up the drift pattern. So that's pretty conclusive in my opinion. But let's move on to some more things to consider, which is the twisting versus vibration. Okay? Because we have twisting going on with magnets, but we have vibration going on with light. So vibration, such as the sound analogy, might be more about compression and decompression of the Aether medium, whereas twisting might refer to a more rotational or spiral form of the energy, like the way magnetic fields rotate spirally around the magnet, right? And this is just my personal theory and something that I've been kind of developing based on, what Tesla was talking about and others talked about as regarding light just being vibrations in this medium. So these differing interactions could, in theory, produce different results. Light in one case and no light in another, based on how the Aether structure is manipulated. So that was, I was thinking about this. Well, if the Aether is being interacted with, why are free energy machines not producing a whole bunch of light? Well, they're interacting with it in a different way, more about compression and decompression that produces the light wave, apparently. But, that's just a theory, and it's a developing theory. It could be wrong, it could be right, it could be in between somewhere. That's all I had for the lecture on the Aether today. I hope you all enjoyed the lecture. Just a friendly reminder that you all fund this great channel that tries to disseminate this forbidden information for you. And you basically keep the lights on. So there are memberships that are unlocked. We have a bunch of fun emojis to play around with, along with a Patreon. And members of the YouTube and Patreon also get early access to some of my research, some of my videos, including Divine Science specials and all that. And it really does help. Every little bit helps. So just a reminder, we don't take sponsorships that could limit our voice or tell us what we can and can't say. So we are totally independent, and we are funded by you guys, and I wouldn't have it any other way, for sure. So with that, we're going to go into part 2. So this is our special guest spotlight, Daniel Nunez of, that's not right, of One Stop Energies. One Stop Energies. In this old video I found that I managed to track down again, Daniel will share updates on his breakthrough energy progress and future goals, including
some mysteriously missing chapters of the Practical Guide to Free Energy Devices. Okay, you guys know that I go over the Practical Guide to Free Energy Devices in our Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices live series, where I break down some of the free energy devices in that guide that I got because I watched a video and Daniel said that he used the book. And I couldn't find this video. I saw it, like it was one of the first videos that I seen. And this was very lucky of me that it was one of the first videos I saw, because this is actually what set me on this trajectory of getting this far with the coil. So it was very lucky that I saw this video very early on, but and picked up the practical guide. But I finally found the video again, guys, and I'll play it for you. But yes, Daniel did have the guide. So it's confirmed. I was like, yeah, I thought I watched a video where he said, but I couldn't be sure. I couldn't be 100%, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure that he said that. And that's where I got the idea to order the guide. This was 2-3 years ago, something like that. So that is where I got the idea to order one. And in his words, the early edition, the one that he had of the Practical Guide to Free Energy Devices, actually featured the rodent coil with, get this, 15 chapters. Okay, 15 chapters he had in his practical guide. The latest version, the one I have, the most recent one that you can, is very rare. I have the 2017 edition. It's the latest edition you can get. There's like maybe one left on Amazon. Scrubbed clean of the rodent coil entirely. So what the hell happened? Well, we can only speculate at this point, but the coil does what it's supposed to do, so one can only assume that whoever developed the new Practical Guide to Free Energy Devices was either pressured or manipulated in some way to take it out.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Nunez and I am the co-creator of OneStopEnergies.com, where together with my wife Erica Nunez we create vortex technologies that may be the next solution to our global energy crisis. So I know that's a bold statement, but you know, we've had instruction by quite a few people, and you know, we can make those statements now with confidence because we have working solutions that are showing energy increases and efficiency gains. So a little bit more background on myself. I started this free energy quest you know, maybe 4 years ago, going to school for green and sustainable resources. And basically what I derived from that was that there weren't very many solutions to our energy problems. We had solar, wind, geothermal, and others, but all of those depended on finite resources. So, you know, without the sun you don't have power, and there's always a factor to render someone powerless. So you know, we took from that the only working solutions were energy devices that people have made for themselves. So we began studying a practical guide to free energy. And through those 15 chapters, the one thing that resonated most with us was the rodent coil. And there's a brief chapter on there basically talking about Marco Rodin and what he discovered with vortex energy. And you know, it showed just the kid's toy model rodent coil that other people were working on before. So later on down the line, Randy Powell adapted Marco Rodin's work and basically said that something was slightly off, and there were different number patterns that Marco hadn't realized yet. And that's when the Abha geometry emerged. So now we take it a step further and create these coils based on those theoretical principles, those theoretical models that are presented there. So we determined how the frames were going to be constructed. How would you uphold geometry in that toroidal shape, and came up with these frames. So the concept of the frame is that we don't have to any longer glue wires to the surface of a torus, or we don't have to put pins on the surface of a torus to create a vortex coil. Now we have a steady frame that upholds the geometry to perfection. And then after that comes, how many wires do you put into the coil? So we found that by using a bundle of 12, we have a certain amount of resonance. If we increase the bundle to 24, the resonance doubles, and so on and so on. So basically what that means is that in that bundle of 12, 6 wires are going in this direction and 6 wires are going in that direction. Basically what that does is it creates a standing wave, or an energy collision, that then turns into high voltage resonance, which isn't supposed to happen with a one-to-one coil. Another thing that we found is that these coils are able to create low voltage ozone. That's something that doesn't happen. The only time you get ozone production is corona discharge of high voltage.
Exactly.
High voltage power lines and things like that. Finally we have been able to replicate the magnetic monopole that many people have been talking about previously online. Jamie Buter found that magnetic monopole property.
We found it as well.
The classical Rodin coils, and these coils actually do only create a south monopole. There is no alternate north pole.
So here's the interesting thing about that, though, that I'd like to chime in real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, Danielle, but my coil wasn't as perfect as yours, so inevitably there were some differences in variables that I wasn't expecting. Now, comparing both our research, I can actually say now that I have a working theory, and that is my coil has some inefficiencies, and that can then cause a leakage of that south pole. So. North pole. So you have, the south pole blinking, but you don't have the north pole blinking, he's saying, right? You have the monopole. And I have the monopole at a specific frequency. But at specific frequencies, you can see that the other pole starts to leak through. Okay? So this is very important. That means that mine isn't perfect, or as perfect as his. His designs were a little bit more meticulous, right? He spent a little bit more time on the details, which is it tells me that I have to spend a little bit more time on the details, and maybe straighten up some of the bent wires in the bundle and keep them more uniform. Also, something else to consider as well, and we will be testing this too, is he had a different inner to outer diameter ratio of this coil frame. So we are working with the Dragon 7 coil frame, which has a 1:2 inner to outer diameter, whereas his has about a 1:5. So his inner diameter is a lot tighter. So it's compressing that a lot more, and that can also contribute, I think, to the leakage of that pole.
Now, where does it go? Who knows? But maybe it's just a maximum compression into the center that we're not able to detect, or maybe it's in the core of the frame itself. We've stuck a probe in there to check and never saw a magnetic north anywhere around the whole torus. So that's something new to these geometries that people really have to start looking into, and that may be the way to overcome the balance, that there's always a give and a loss. We can possibly extract more energy without having so much loss because the balance is no longer there. Now, all of these things have been a work in progress, and we've learned how to adapt these things to modern technologies now, perfected it in lighting. Right now we're powering this 100-watt light bulb with 80 watts of power. And that was odd. I just directed my attention to it and it flickered. But we're powering this light bulb with 80 watts of power. It's 100 watts of power that it normally takes. So right now we have a working solution that can be implemented as a viable device. We can scale this as big as possible. We can create a massive infrastructure around it. We can create homes that you can walk into, and your house would be the torus, And it would be that every one of your little devices that you own couples directly to the energy that's produced by your home. So these are no longer science fiction things. This is all real. We could take this into space by creating some type of an electrostatic lifter type system. The technologies are there, available for viewing online, and it's possible to find those videos to reassure yourself that it is possible. So, you know, these are all things that when expanded upon can really affect our global situation with energy, and nobody has to be suffering in the darkness anymore. So, you know, with your support, we can continue forward and continue developing these understandings and distributing them to the general public so that people can replicate and implement these technologies for themselves. That's really the only way that we're going to see a change within a reasonable amount of time, is if other people get involved, get enthused, and spread the word. So,
Well said. Very well said. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to inspire you guys to do this yourself. Everything is open source that I do. So just go into it knowing that I advise that you have a strong set of safety precautions that you take. Understand that I assume that you know what you're doing, and you're not going to hurt yourself, because I'm not liable. If you hurt yourself or you damage your components, this energy can be very destructive. When you're working with back EMF, it can blow stuff up. You can pop caps, and I have popped a bunch of caps. So, and this coil, it produces a lot of ozone at very low voltages, and that's very important to consider as well, because that's very dangerous in enclosed spaces.
So thank you all for your support, and you know, this was really just a video to express a little bit more about myself, what I would like to see, and what options we have present right now. So, you know, these are all things that can easily be adapted to any technology, and this is here and it's now. So thank you for your attention, and blessings always. Hello everyone, we're back again. I also forgot to mention something that was very important. One of the properties of these coils is that they produce fields 20 feet in diameter. So
we're not going to watch this part. It goes into a topic regarding, you know, holistic healing, stuff like that. So we're not going to touch on that because YouTube doesn't like those types of topics. So, do you have any burning questions about Vortex technology? Now's your chance to ask me anything about the coil and my setups. We're going to take a short, maybe 30-minute break, and I'm going to allow you guys to ask your questions while I get the mini lab set up, and then I'm going to come back after the break, answer your questions if you have any, and then we're going to let you guys choose where I should start out with our mini lab testing. Okay, so we have the mini lab testing plans here, down here in the pre-show guide that I provided to you in the chat. I'll post it again. It's also there's also a link in the description as well. So you guys take a look at that. Ask any questions you want. Take a look at the mini lab testing plan guide, and if you have any suggestions where we should start out, please let me know. I'm letting you guys take the reins here tonight. We have a lot of juicy tests to choose from, specifically because I have been behind in my testing. Actually, yeah, let's go over I'm going to go over the tests real quick before we go on break, just so you have an idea of what we're going to be doing. So the sphere test, the test with the neodymium sphere and a 12-volt battery. We want to test the energy potential of a neodymium sphere setup that simulates the magnetic rotary with a 12-volt battery as the source. We also want to retest the lightning thief setup with the magnetic rotary. So we want to see if the lightning thief picks up any high voltage off of the magnetic induction from the primary coil, okay, that's being driven by that rotary. And if that works, we'll try that as well with the battery. So we also have a micro coil wireless pickup test that we can try. I didn't try the wireless induction with the micro coil. We're going to test the single pattern microvortex coil designed by Michel Morel for wireless energy pickup from a primary coil powered by a lightning thief. Okay, so we're just going to test and see if that single pattern picks up any energy wirelessly. Maybe just a single LED, see if it picks it up. 100 ohm resistor and the new MOSFET. So I got some new MOSFETs in, and I couldn't get them to work with the lightning thief, but I had some suggestions with how to proceed with that, and we can test the lightning thief with the new MOSFET, but this time we can try the 100 ohm resistor. The first attempt was a bust using 1K ohm resistor that was already attached to the lightning thief circuit. If you know how, if you've seen my videos and as you know, I open source everything, you know that the lightning thief has a 1K ohm resistor inside of it. Okay, so that was wrong for the size of that coil. Apparently, we are going to reduce that to 100 ohms and see if we can tune that coil into resonance. Or I'm sorry, that's the next one. We're going to see if we can tune the coil into resonance, the regular coil, with the MOSFET. The next one, we're going to see if we can tune the microvortex coil into resonance with the single pattern. And that one, we're going to also change the potentiometer. So we have to adjust the lightning thief circuit for the test 3 and 4, basically, because the MOSFET is a different rating than the transistor we're using. It's probably going to require a different set of resistance, I guess, is the idea. And the microvortex coil is very, very small, so we also need to adjust that resistance. And also, test 4, we have to try again using the full bridge rectifier, but this time with an FR207 diode. So this is a little bit heftier of a diode. Michael from Faraday Research and Michel both recommended this diode. I used a UF4007, and Mike from Faraday Research said that I probably fried them because I wasn't getting any current reading, but I was getting voltage. So we're going to try the full bridge rectifier with those diodes and see if we can pick up the DC output current and measure that, because that's important to measure. So those are our tests, and if time permits, actually I have one more. I'm not going to mess with the fireball coil. I think I forgot I have another micro coil, and I have the ability to wind it with 2 wind patterns, the interference pattern this time. So instead of the single pattern, we'll have a little micro with the full 2 patterns, the single pattern and then the interference pattern, the second pattern. So I think if I have time, I'll try to wind that finally, because that doesn't take that much time. Fireball coil might be a lost cause. I think that's better time spent. So with that, those are our testing, our tests for the evening. That's what's on our menu. You guys pick and choose what you want to see first while I take my 30-minute break. And if you have any burning questions about Vortex technology, please ask while we have our intermission. And when I come back, we will jump into the mini lab testing. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at the chat and see which way we're deciding to go with the testing here, or if anybody has any questions. Ooh, Mike does and Mr. Lanius. Lots of chats here. Thank you, guys. Just scroll up, fried and find out. Yes, that's right. I'm just here for the music. Nice. Let's see. Unga bunga. I'm gonna give my phone a few more minutes to charge up since I'm using it as the camera. Then I'm gonna set it up in just a moment. Mr. Lania said Ashton just went live. Common voltage, current ions. No questions. Let's see. Chinese lady was talking about negative resistance. The Crone had a negative resistor that I'm interested in finding out how it worked. I might do some research on that at some point. That's definitely on my list of things to do. All right. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any questions or opinions on where we should start with our research. So let me put up the window again. All right, so we're just going to scroll down here. If anybody has any suggestions where we're going to start, I'm just going to pick, and we're going to start with something easy. Let's do the microcoil wireless pickup test. We'll see if the microcoil with the single wind acts as a pickup coil for the ABHA coil powered by the Lightning Thief. So let's get that set up, and then maybe we'll move on to try out the MOSFET, because I've been really meaning to do that. Try out the MOSFET with the Lightning Thief and see how it works with the 100 ohm resistor, if it does at all. So I'm not getting any kind of pickup from the coil. Interesting enough, I'm not getting any kind of pickup from the Christmas coil either, which usually picks it up with the dual thief setup. So I'm going to quickly hook up the second lightning thief, and I'm going to confirm that it is actually able to induce the wireless energy through the second lightning thief. I have a feeling to fully test if this thing is able to act as a pickup coil, the microcoil, we might have to bust out the green machine in a few minutes. So it appears to be working, but the protection neon is not turning on, which is concerning. So what I'm going to do now is open up the lightning thief and just ensure that the protection neon is safely seated inside the mini breadboard I have here. I don't think, yeah, this isn't the PCB version. So I'm going to do that real quick.
So these things do have a tendency to fry, the neons, so it does look like it's a little bit burnt. I'm going to replace the bulb and put it back on there because it was working, it just wasn't lighting up the neon protection bulb. That bulb is actually key though, because it shows us when the load is disconnected from the secondary lightning thief and the dual thief setup that it actually is inducing high voltage into the secondary coil wirelessly. Aha! Notice how my 3D printer effed up the big one. You screwed the pooch on this one, printer. Notice, just real quick, just to confirm, because I don't want there to be any doubt about the wireless induction that's happening here that's high voltage. You see this neon, it's on. I disconnected these two wires, which is the positive and negative for the load. The only thing that this secondary lightning thief is hooked up to is the Christmas coil. And the Christmas coil isn't hooked up to anything else. Just the lightning thief, that's it. All it's doing is picking up the energy because it's sitting below the primary here. What did I do with my pointer? Oh, there it is. So this is our primary. That's the only thing that's being powered by this battery below here, the 12 volt, 20 amp hour battery. That's our primary lightning thief. As you can see, we can adjust that. And this one's dependent on the tuning of that, because this one won't work at all unless this one's in tune. And the light won't turn on at all if the primary isn't in tune. But the light will kind of turn on if this one's out of tune, slightly. So it's weird. So we are picking up at least 120 volts with this 120 volt neon lamp through the secondary coil on the bottom here, the Christmas coil, wirelessly. Just with it sitting on top like this. And I think that's pretty phenomenal. Again, we are taking reservations for the Lightning Thief. So if you would like to reserve your copy, which will be available for consumers probably, I'm aiming for the second or third quarter of 2025. You can do so. I will post a link in the chat momentarily for you guys to do that. This is not the consumer version. This is just a prototype. These are the prototypes that I'll be sending out to the team for further testing before we finalize the consumer version. And regardless of our results with over Unity, which aren't conclusive at the moment, but regardless of those results, this circuit is amazing at tuning your coil. Any bifilar coil should work given a specific size, and that you adjust the resistance to the size if it's small or bigger than the standard sizes that I have here. Not only will it allow you to tune your coil very easily and determine what its resonance frequency is and get it to hum and sing and output good lighting efficiency, bypassing the need for inverter. Not only that, well, it'll squeeze every last drop out of your source. So this 12 volt battery, I got it down to 5 volts. That's incredible. You know, it doesn't last much longer past, I think, like 10 volts. 10 or 9 volts, it drops like very fast, but it will continue to run up to like about 5 volts left on the source and power your light with the same brightness. So that's pretty cool. At least the big panel was at the same brightness. I have still yet to test that on the 9 watt bulb that is being powered here.
but I'm sure the results should be similar. So this is the Lightning Thief prototype. I'm trying to print out more to send out to the team. Right now we are at a stalemate because I do not have funding to actually get the terminal blocks that are required for the rest of the components, along with some more transistors for the team's prototypes. So if you're interested in helping me with these and sending them out to the team, I do have a whole host of ways that you can help fund my research in the link in the description, along with a new Throne link. It's called Throne, and there's a whole bunch of components that are essential to my further testing with these coils that I put on there. If anybody is in the generous mood and wants to help fund some of this research and provide me some of those, the most essential component right now is a pack of 330 picofarad capacitors, mica capacitors. So those will be needed to test the open circuit method of the Lightning Thief, which the PCB does support. And we will be putting a little toggle switch on the bottom where the power outputs are. I'm thinking maybe USB power outputs because they're so adaptable. But either way, we'll be putting a toggle switch so you can toggle between the closed circuit method, which you see here, and the open circuit method, which is kind of dangerous if you don't have a load attached. It will produce enormous amounts of ozone. We do need to test that out though with the Mark I with the picofarad, 330 picofarad, and I think a pack is like $40 or something. So that is our most essential component. But I do have a whole bunch of components there that are going to be needed to get these things out there, including a pack of resistors and some more transistors. So that's where we are right now. I do have the ability to print out all the housing, fortunately, so I should be able to do that with the 3D printer and the amount of plastic that I have available. The potentiometers also are going to be a little bit more expensive because they are carbon. And they are 1 mega ohm potentiometers, but they are necessary. So that's actually going to be the most expensive component, I believe, on the board entirely, is the potentiometer, really. So let me go back to the desktop, the workstation, and we're going to go over what just happened and see what our next test is going to be. Alright, so what just happened? Well, we didn't get any kind of wireless induction with the LED attached to either the micro vortex coil or the Christmas coil, which is very weird because we just saw it wirelessly induce the energy into the dual thief setup. So what's going on here? Okay? Well, I think that there is a little bit of residual energy coming from the coil, not enough to power anything, but I think it's enough to trigger that transistor, and I think it's enough to trigger the oscillation and the dual thief, and I think it's enough to excite that neon. Maybe. That's the ongoing theory, unless there's some kind of connection issue with the LED or the LED is actually burnt out. I tried 2 different ones, a green one and a white one, but there's always a possibility that both of them don't work. I could do this all day and test different components and make sure, but we're going to move on for now. I think we kind of established that there might not really be any wireless energy coming off that's useful except with the dual thief setup. Unless you have a second Lightning Thief hooked up to your pickup coil, it might not really do anything useful.
But this is good. This means that we have a practical application for using 2 coils, 2 lightning thieves, and it shows us that by adding a second coil, you can induce high voltage into that coil with the secondary lightning thief, which is very, very cool. Again, if you've seen my previous experiments with the coil, you know that I haven't really been able to get any kind of useful power out of wireless induction from coil to coil. It just hasn't really been useful, and we've been trying to figure out how are we going to make this useful, because that's our primary way of getting the free energy out of the magnetic rotary setup we have for our green machine, which I'll show you momentarily. However, this kind of demonstrates that there is a potential pathway to kind of utilizing that free energy with the green machine if we can do it correctly, with maybe combining the green machine with a lightning thief, which is pretty cool, I think. You know, we can combine the 2 different components that we're going to have commercially available, and if they work, they'll be a nice addition to your coil kits, you know. I think that's going to be really neat. But that being said, what we're going to move on to do now is, let's see. Well, I'm going to bust out the green machine to show you while I set up the next test, but I think I want to test the MOSFET. So while I hook up the MOSFET and resistor to the lightning thief, before I do that, I'm going to show you the green machine and what it looks like. So the green machine is a pulse motor that is able to pulse a magnetic rotary with your ABHA coil. And essentially when you do that, it can reduce the input requirement. So the wattage for the input for the system goes down the faster you spin that rotary. And we have a neodymium sphere that we've been testing, and we got it down 30 watts, which is incredible. So that green machine was being powered by the coil. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. I haven't gotten the software to work correctly yet, but that's just you know, another small problem. Not really worried about the software issue right at the moment. So right now I'm going to put on some lab music. You guys can chill out, watch the 3D print as I get together the MOSFET, and I might actually try to switch the camera if I can to put it on the workstation so you can see me build it. But either way, I'm going to try to build that real quick for you. Oh yeah. Remember, it's not a true lightning thief, ladies and gentlemen, unless it has the Benefactor's seal of disapproval. Aha. So it's just a couple of wires. Don't want to take anything out at this point. All I have to do is add a resistor and change the wires around slightly. There we go. Nice and easy. And be very gentle. Be very gentle when putting together your lightning thief if you want to take it apart and modify it, because the goal of this thing is to be highly modifiable, highly upgradable. You don't want to have to, you know, replace the whole thing if something fries out. The idea is to have it easily swappable components inside. And so when you're taking this apart, if you choose to do so, just be very careful when putting it back together. You don't want to shake anything up. But once the top is closed to the bottom, it should be safely secure. Now, this might not be the final housing that we ship for the consumer version, but for the prototype version, especially if any team members are watching, it should be fine as long as you maintain that you have that piece in here that keeps up the potentiometer. It is, you know, slightly stuck in there. I didn't want to exactly glue it. But it's stuck in there, and it's propped up a little bit by a piece of foam. So you just make sure that's aligned and that none of the wires are pushing against the neon and it doesn't come unlodged, and everything else should be fine. And also be very, very careful. You don't want to hyper screw this in. This is very delicate plastic that I'm using for the prototypes. You will break it if you go too fast with the screwdriver. All right, and she's ready to go. Let's go and test it out. Hey, Dead End coming in with a super chat. I really appreciate that. Holy crap. That is amazing. Let us celebrate this super chat. What did you have to say about that? Let's see. That was really cool, dude. Awesome. Yes. Yes. Thank you for the super chat. That was really awesome. Yes. Does your channel have a cul-de-sac? The Dead End channel. That's cute. That's funny. Okay, guys. Well, we got the Lightning Thief modified with the new 100 ohm resistor, 2 watt, by the way, and that's what I recommend. You don't need it, from what I experienced with my Mark 1, but I would very much recommend you use the 2 watt, just because depending on the size of your coil, you might easily burn it out, right? If the coil is very, very efficient compared to mine, then you're going to burn something out very fast. So, yeah, I do recommend 2 watt resistors for the Lightning Thief if you aim to modify it.
I just realized I forgot to put the MOSFET in there. Silly me. Let me put the MOSFET in there, and then we'll try it again. All right, the MOSFET's in. All right, so the MOSFET was a bust with the 100 ohm resistor. Maybe we just need to disconnect the 1 mega ohm potentiometer and adjust the potentiometer. We're not going to do that tonight. We have time for maybe one more quick test before we have to get ready for the League of Extraordinary Inventors main show, which it kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as per usual on our Fridays podcast. So Yeah, let's do one more quick one, and then we'll take a quick intermission and get ready for the League of Extraordinary Inventors main show, guys. I do have so many more tests that I need to do. We're going to continue to put these on the list for my live streams in the future, and build on those as well. And if you have any ideas or suggestions, please feel free. We are a team here. The chat is part of that team. So you guys are a part of our team, and some of your suggestions have been vital for our research. And we really appreciate all the love and support, the super chats included, the membership subscriptions, the Patreon, and the donations, all that. It really makes a difference, and helps keep the lights on, literally. So with that said, I don't know, let's maybe try building the full bridge rectifier, because that's very easy, and then we'll measure, see if we can measure the output current. We'll do that real quick, and then we'll go to an intermission and get ready for the main show. As you can see, we're going to be using the FR207 diodes for our full bridge rectifier. It is very simple, ladies and gentlemen. It is a very easy, it's one of the easiest things that I've had the great pleasure of learning how to build on regarding circuits and electronics. And it's very useful. So what it does is it takes an AC sine wave and converts it into a DC signal. So that's what we're going to do here, and see if we can measure the DC output with this. This was per Mike from Faraday Research's recommendation. He thought that maybe we were burning out our previous diodes, which were the UF4007. But we were getting voltage. We were getting high voltage, exciting the neon, just no current. Couldn't read the current. So we're going to try these bad boys and see what happens. Stay tuned. Here you'll see my previous full bridge rectifier. As you can see, it's very simple, just 4 components. Don't pay any attention to these capacitors. They're just there just in case I need them. Yeah, just 4 diodes. That's it. And then you connect these in a specific way that it forces the energy one way. So, very cool. Well, they give me plenty to work with here.
looks like the Lightning Thief top part of the case component is done printing. All right, it looks like it's complete. Let's go test it out.
cosmic flight. Holding on to stars of starlight. There's a light within the dark waves, guided by echoes and ancient ways. Unify our reflection. With everything there's a connection. Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone feels the goodness of meditation. There's a light within the dark waves, guided by echoes and ancient ways. Unify our reflection. With every beat there's a connection. Feel the pulse, divine sensation.
Give me one moment and I'll hop back over to the workstation and we'll go over everything before. Yep, we got 10 minutes to the league. So, the MOSFET was a bust, and we couldn't pick up any current. But we did pick up slight voltage from it. So I know it was kind of working. It just wasn't exciting the neon. And that's interesting because the UF4007 excited the neon. So what I think is maybe I just have something plugged in not all the way, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something's plugged in wrong. What I'll have to do is not totally eliminate this test because there's a couple of variables that could have gone wrong here. And I'll have to redo this test because Michel did get a reading from his lightning thief from this diode setup. So I'm thinking maybe something was just not hooked up right. And it was unfortunate that the MOSFET didn't work, but if anybody has any suggestions on how to modify the lightning thief circuit so that we could maybe get that MOSFET to work. It is a IRF 540 MOSFET. So that's where we are right now. You have access to the modified excitation circuit tutorial, which is what this lightning thief is. It's on my channel if you guys want to take a look at it. We watched it earlier on the intermission. It's all open source there, so if you have any ideas on how we can modify this to get it to work with the MOSFET, any ideas would be greatly appreciated at this point. But right now, we need to get ready for the League of Extraordinary Inventors. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate the super chats and the regular chats and the enormous support from all of our awesome viewers. So with that, let's go to a quick intermission and sit tight for the League of Extraordinary Inventors.